The Drug Enforcement Commission has announced that over 800 million kwacha has been forfeited to the state and is now sitting in the coffers of government. These are proceeds reasonably concluded to be proceeds of crime. That in itself sounds like great news, and a lot of people are celebrating. But others, on the other hand, are asking the question, is government cracking deals with criminals? Well, there's one person that can answer those questions. The Director General of the Drug Enforcement Commission, Nason Banda, agreed to an interview. We sat down with him and asked him this and many other questions. Welcome to this day. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Buyoya. DG, thank you for hosting us here at the Drug Enforcement Commission.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you. You're most welcome.
Let's start off, first of all, from a point of reference, which is basically one of the major responsibilities that you have as the Drug Enforcement Commission. I understand that you are fighting against illegal cultivation, production, trafficking, and abuse of narcotic drugs, psychotropic substances, but also money laundering activities. That's a lot of responsibility that one institution has to carry. And I would like to find out if, as the Director General of the Drug Enforcement Commission, you feel that you are fighting all of these illegal activities adequately, and if you have enough resource to do so.
Thank you very much, Dingy. Basically, as a commission, we're a creature of Parliament. So we have our mandate clearly outlined. While they may look like a lot of responsibilities, we have structured ourselves in such a way that each of those aspects are adequately addressed. So basically, with us, we look at it from two sides: the supply reduction and the demand reduction. Then money laundering stands on its own. So supply reduction, we look at the supply of the drugs. The cultivation itself is put in the category of supplying. The drug traffickers that bring the drugs from outside or within Zambia, peddle them around, we look at them as supply. Then we come now to the demand reduction. We look at the victims of the crime now. Those that will take the drugs and maybe fall sick, maybe even have psychotic problems. So those, we have to look after them. Then we've also got to prevent. So we produce material, we'll have workshops, we'll have all sorts of activities, interaction with the media to ensure that people are informed before they are caught up in the problem of drugs. Then we have the money laundering. The money laundering, by the way, came a little bit later. I've had the privilege of growing up in these corridors in the DEC, so I saw the act actually being crafted. I saw how we mobilized members of parliament then to speak to them and let them understand what money laundering is all about. So the first laws were legislated, and there we are now with the more advanced laws against money laundering. So there we're basically looking at the proceeds of crime. When somebody sells the drugs, they have money. That money they have, we want to target it. When somebody commits even other offenses, we call them predicate offenses. It's not necessarily just drugs. Even fraud, even theft. If we catch up with you and the predicate offense is theft, but the proceeds of that crime will be of our interest under the Money Laundering Act. So we're structured, to put it simply, in such a way that we've divided ourselves up and we're able to target each of the areas with the right number of professionals.
Do you think that, and we start with the drug, and let me not say think, but from your assessment, are drugs a big problem in Zambia? Is this a big problem that people should worry about, and what does the status quo say?
It's actually a very big problem. It's a very big problem. One will not appreciate the extent of the problem, until you perhaps find a victim of the drug scourge. Let me pick a very common example now. We have this phenomenon of junkies. That's an example of the manifestation of the results of drugs. These people, you see, I'm sure you've heard what they're doing. They attack people, pull you out of your card, because they're under the influence of drugs. But that is one angle. We have now those that are actually using their monies to manipulate systems, using their monies that they get from the drug trafficking and from other related offenses to manipulate systems. It's possible to even have a criminal being sponsored to get into political office, for example, using drug money. It's possible to have those people clearly maligning the economy, where you don't even know how much you really have as a country, because some of the money is in a parallel economy. These are just simple examples that I'm picking. But really, the drug trafficking problem has a lot of offshoots of difficulties. And so in Zambia, we're seeing a lot of that. Right now, I think you might be aware, we have situations where people now are not only bringing the drugs, they are manufacturing them locally here, the illicit drugs. Now, that is another level. So we now have to start thinking about even precursors. Are they also coming in large quantities in Zambia? Now, these are all problems, which finally can just create a situation where the country will be ungovernable. So it is a big problem, and we want to respond to it with a big hand.
The population of the country has been growing, and the population of the country is growing both internally by, Zambians having more children, but also having immigrants coming into the country for various purposes. Is this a source of concern for you as the Drug Enforcement Commission, that with this growing population, then we have these, concerns that you are raising of this drug problem that we are witnessing?
Yes, certainly the growth of population comes with its own problems. And the world now is becoming a global village, where it's already one. People just crisscross. They can come from any direction and come and do business here and so forth. So we are seeing definitely some of these people, I must emphasize, some of these people that come in from outside come in with ill intentions. Sometimes they take advantage of our hospitality and start doing wrong things. This is what we're seeing. So our prayer is that even as the population is growing, let the people that are coming in to join us to come and invest in Zambia be legitimate in their activities. I'll give you an example that many times we have arrested people that are foreign nationals. And I've emphasized to these people that by the time we are learning that you're a foreign national, we're done with our investigations. So it's not the fact that you're a foreigner that we are following you up. No. We are following you up because of the offense that you have committed. So there's nothing like saying this one because it's from this country, therefore he's a bad guy. No. We follow the offense you have committed. The issue of nationality will come in later as we are registering you in the books. Because even a Zambian, we still ask you, are you a Zambian? So we'll ask for that. But otherwise, the truth of the matter and the crux of the matter is that we are a very hospitable country. And sometimes people will take advantage of that. So as DEC, we are on high alert to ensure. Remember now the issue of visas has been waived in many areas. All those are areas which the government is trying to bring in to encourage people to come and invest. But some of these people that come, unfortunately, might not come with good intentions. So the population is growing, and we have to fight and ensure that this population does not get contaminated.
Despite being on high alert, and with the extent of the problem, how you describe it, is it supposed to be concerning for the people of this country that the Drug Enforcement Commission might need reinforcing?
That one is a must, my dear. That one is a must. We're a government department, subject to the constraints that everybody else is subjected to. So we know that we have figures of numbers of people that would like to employ. I can tell you as DG that I'm definitely understaffed, very understaffed. I need a lot of officers. But you see, when people are employed, we need to think about paying them. So if the money is not there, we have to understand that government has to plan and prioritize its expenses. So at the moment, I need staff like yesterday because the problem is growing and my numbers on the ground are quite thin, but I'm trying to make the best out of it. So I'm hoping that as the economy picks up, I can be given the numbers so that we deliver.
What would be the implication of the status quo continuing as it is with the manpower that you have at the moment?
It's obvious that we will not live up to our expectations. We have targets. We set our targets, so we will not be able to reach our targets. So it will help us a lot if we have the numbers coming in. And I know that it's in the pipeline. We're definitely going to have the numbers sooner or later. Well, I don't need to emphasize the fact that we have one of the worst years around here because of the drought. So I know that government is constrained to look at all these needy areas. People are going to starve. So I wouldn't expect them to look at all our needs in the departments. But I know that we have covered some ground already. I think the numbers have been given. Basically, I can report that I've been given authority to employ, but I've not even been given treasury authority. So therefore, I cannot employ until treasury authority is given to pay these guys the salaries. So ground has been covered. And I understand why there's a delay. We're in a situation that needs to be dealt with. I think we've seen how the president is running around, ensuring that we have this debt restructuring. And we expect results from that. When those things come out, we are the beneficiaries. We may have more people coming in. But for now, we have to make do with what we have. If 3 jobs have been done by one person, we're going to do that. The good thing that I'll tell you, Dinda, is that my officers are very well trained. Yeah, they are versatile. They can fit in any situation. There are times when we work continuously, a couple of days. Sometimes even myself, when there's a very serious issue, I'll be seated in my office here up to morning, commandeering my officers to ensure that we get it right. So that's the kind of officers I have. So I think we'll manage with what we have, but we can definitely do better with more.
While you describe your officers as highly trained and proficient, but you've probably heard some of the concerns that the public has. And some of them feel that they've lost confidence in law enforcement agencies, and that's probably not a sudden action. It has probably been cumulative over the years, and people feel that they can't trust law enforcement agencies. What goes on in the walls, in the corridors of the Drug Enforcement Commission when you hear some people say that they don't have confidence in the law enforcement agencies?
Yeah, you see, I think I always describe the law enforcement area as one of the most hazardous industrial spaces, because that's one area where when I arrest you for a particular offense, your whole family will hate me. Even the whole village where you come from, they have picked our boy. He never did. Even if they knew you were a criminal, they will all turn against us. So it's an area where you have to have a balancing act, at the same time enforcing the law fairly. So where we are now, where we stand now, I wouldn't want to stand out and say we're doing the job so well to the satisfaction of everybody. No. I know that you satisfy that one, but you not satisfy the other. So confidence in us, well, I think sometimes it depends on how we handle, especially cases of public interest. That's what I've noticed in my experience. By the way, I've been around this game for more than 30 years. How old are you, Dinda?
Well, I think you've been there longer than I've been in existence. Yeah, but yeah. I think that maybe my question is, does it matter at all whether people have confidence in the Drug Enforcement Commission, in the law enforcement agencies or not? Does it matter to you?
It matters a lot. It matters a lot. And I must tell you, there are times when some of my officers have misconducted themselves. There are times when I have dismissed officers myself. When they do wrong things, I think I've dismissed so far about 4 or 5 officers. Yes. So they misconduct themselves in such a way that I feel I can't tolerate that. I show them the door. That is the most difficult decision you can make, to fire a child who is like your own child, and you know what is going to happen to them after that. But when they misconduct themselves, we just have to do that. So in our corridors, yes, I know that I wouldn't want to blow our trumpet if we have any at all, but I think what is important is to know that we would always try to do our best, and bad eggs will always also be available in any working space. You find 1 or 2 guys that come with their own ideas and they mess up. It's very disheartening, actually. Public confidence is very important, because this is what is going to help us to get information. We depend on the members of the public to tell us what is going on. We can't be everywhere. By the way, I'm saying of these numbers here, we also have numbers in the community that are working with us. Some of them almost semi-formally with us. They give us the information. So for that confidence, for somebody to come to me and say, DG, Mr. X is dealing in drugs, he must be confident that I'm not going to go around and tell Mr. X, the one who informed me is this guy, because we'll be shot. So that kind of confidence is very important. And from my experience too, the other thing that I've noticed about public confidence, it also comes with the certainty that if somebody is arrested, he's going to appear in court, and you may actually secure a conviction. That's what the community is expecting. That certainty brings a lot of confidence in our work. But when they know today Mr. X is arrested, tomorrow is on the street driving the same Mercedes-Benz with which he was caught with, or maybe the money that was, everything is back to normal, they start losing confidence. So what is important is that when we carry out our investigations, we must be thorough, which we're trying to do, and be able to show the people the court process. Because we must also be alive, digging out the fact that each one of us enjoys the presumption of innocence. People would like us to secure a conviction. It's not at any cost. It's not a matter of life and death. We're following the law. and we know that we have not prepared our case properly, you will be discharged or acquitted. And when you're acquitted, don't feel like we've lost the world. We should look back at our books. What didn't we do right? Then we realize, well, it looks like this gentleman was actually innocent because this thing happened in this. I think we made a mistake there. We learned something. All these are factors that speak to public confidence. So we're trying our best.
Do you acknowledge, as the Drug Enforcement Commission, that there are times when you have told the public certain things and it turns out that, you know, it wasn't that way? And do you think that that's probably why the people have high expectations, that they receive information from law enforcement agencies about investigations, about all these issues before they're concluded, and the court of public opinion requires that people are found guilty even when they're not?
Yeah, for us, speaking for the DEC particularly, I don't want a situation where we think so much of the court of public opinion. That court is very dangerous. We are not on a stage performing a play. These are serious matters. So we don't dance to the gallery. We go by what we have on our desk. Whether it will appear like it's not good to the members of the public, we'll go by what is there, because there are certain things we cannot tell you at a particular time. When we release information, it's because, again, we don't want to keep you in the dark. And we don't need to hear that 7 teachers have been arrested at X primary school. Then you just keep getting it on social media. Who arrested them? Well, yeah, it's the DEC. In fact, this one's dad was arrested. This one's mother was arrested. We don't want that. We don't want that kind of speculation. We'll make a release. Say, yes, it's true. We have X, Y, Z in custody. You'll be given details as we proceed. So at least it's cleared. Just like today, for example, I was talking about the aircraft. I was talking about the aircraft because there's a lot of speculation around. No, it has been released at night, it has been done what, and somebody's involved in it, somebody has been paid. It's all over social media said, no, we can't go on like this. I seized that aircraft. And it's me to release the seizure. So it is taken by the owners. So I have a responsibility to get back to the public again and tell them what has happened. And that's what I did today. I said, I think time has come now. This is what happened. Explained everything step by step. Your colleagues were here, step by step. The idea is to open up and let the people understand that this is what happened. So we'll give out information, but we'll only give out that which the public needs to know, not what they want to know, what they need to know, because at the end of the day, you are the guys paying us. I'm seated here, I'm paid by the taxpayer. So I have a responsibility to that Zambian out there, the primary school teacher, the nurse there, the soldier there. I have a responsibility to account for what I'm doing, and I can do that through you.
To what extent does this hold? You know, the feeling that the court of public opinion may be very dangerous. And I'll cite examples that there are certain situations where the public feels that it might appear that a situation is fair, and based on whatever investigation is carried out by the Drug Enforcement Commission through the courts of law, and yet the people feel something more could have been done. Situations of negotiations. I think you've heard this so many times, that someone will be on the wrong end of the law and they will negotiate the way to freedom by forfeiting, for example, some of their proceeds of crime. And yet the very people that are part of society today will be jailed and sent to prison for stealing 2 bags of Millie Meal. So how do you strike this balance, and what exactly does justice mean and fairness mean to institutions like yours?
That's a very good question. I think it has been rising in many, many angles. Now, let me make it clear. Each case must be looked at on its own merit. Each case. Now, whatever we do is provided for in the laws. So the crafters of the laws thought at some points, in some cases, there should be room for consent. Consent means this party and maybe the state sitting together and agreeing. And when this is done, by the way, we take it to court again. And judges have to assess and see whether this agreement makes sense or it is something they can sanction. Then they sign. So it's not like we sit here and do things. No. Now, another important thing to note is that there are times when we assess. We are professionals in our own right. We assess whether the criminal route which is where you want the person to be jailed, is easier to use, or the civil route, where we shall now prosecute the property and the money? So we'll make that decision in these boardrooms where we sit. Seated with our lawyers, our prosecutors, the director of public prosecutions, will make that decision. Said, well, it looks like it might be easier this way. Sometimes a person offers, who have their properties, and they come and say, these properties, this and this and this, I bought it, I can account for it. But this one, I may not be able to account for it because of circumstances. We have situations where you are here, you might not be aware that you have titles for 6 houses. You're not aware of it. So when we come to check, it's the young man who owns these things. We bring you in. No, this. How did you get this? I'm not even aware of those properties. Surely, should we lock you up? Somebody has used. I'm just giving a very, very simple example. In that case, you will tell us to say these properties, DG, are not mine. I don't even know who used my details to do this. Get them. Get them. So the state will get those properties. Somebody stand up, they negotiated. So I'm giving a very simple example. Now, there are several other examples I can give you where a person, us, together with the other parties, we see clearly that the criminal route will be long, costly. By the way, litigation is very, very costly. It will be costly, and why can't we recover that which is able to give us? And we see that it is not properly explained as to where it came from. Why can't we recover that and throw it back into the government coffers? Like yesterday, I was signing letters throwing in more than 800 million kwacha into our government coffers. Yesterday. Can you imagine what the 800 million kwacha will do for this country? Now, if 1, 2, 3, 4 people, I can even see the case in court, is not looking very good. You know, courts are courts. After you've seen, I don't even need to tell you, other people 10 years later, 10 years later, they are acquitted. You've seen that happen here in Zambia. 10 years later, a lot of hullabaloo about the court cases. This big person has been arrested now they're doing this. Then it takes 10 years. After 10 years, he's acquitted and the person even dies. What would have happened if I had said, okay, from what you have here, considering your status around here, why don't you give back to the state this, this, and this? Then we'll leave you with this one. Maybe the house where you're sleeping, which you're able to account for. Give us this. Of the two, which is better? So each case must be looked at on its own merit. And whatever we do, the most important thing, we have the laws telling us. They are not thoughts that we're just coming up with. Somebody crafted the law to support this kind of activities.
Do you think that this poses a threat to deterring would-be offenders, especially because in a lot of such cases, the people that are involved have huge amounts of property, huge values of property, and some of the people might feel that some of these decisions made are usually protecting the wealthy, that the wealthy would never step foot into these facilities, the reformatory facilities, and they get away with so much simply because they've acquired so much illegally and they can simply give it back.
Yeah, it's not like all the time, whenever a rich person is arrested, we're going to go for the negotiation way. No. Like I'm saying, each case is looked at on its own. Right now, we have a lot of cases involving high-profile people that we're prosecuting criminally. In spite of them having all those properties are seized. Their accounts are seized. They are with us here. They can't access them. They are appearing in court. I can't mention the names, of course. They are there. It's just that when one single instance, it happens that maybe we say, let us go the consent way. Of course, that brings out a lot of interest. Now, we can't talk about the cases that are in court. We are constrained. If we could be given a chance by the court, say, tell the country how many cases are running here for some high-profile people, or politically exposed persons that are running right now. You see them on the street because they're on bail. These are bailable offenses. But their properties are seized here. We have billions worth of properties that are seized here at the DSC. The matters are running in court. If you check properly, you find the cases running. So each case is looked at on its own merit. We don't want to have a situation where cases run forever. That is why we even have now this new piece of legislation which stipulates the time frame. The reason they did that was because of avoiding that same problem.
How feasible is this? I mean, you talk about this. I was going to talk about it
Yes,
much later, but stipulating the amount of time in which
Yes.
these cases must be prosecuted.
Yes.
Is this actually feasible? And is this going to work?
We're giving it a shot, Dikinzaba. We're giving it a shot. I think looking at the guidance that has been given, let's give it a shot. I'm sure it can work. Let's give it a shot. I want to be very optimistic because, you see, it's easier to talk about somebody being coming to court for a long period of time. But it's another thing when you think of what is happening in terms of justice. They say justice delayed is justice denied. So we are trying to move away from it. I think the country is moving away from that. Now, there are procedures that have been put in place. The way we're going to be taking our witnesses to court, the way we're going to be submitting the list of witnesses, all those things have been done. So a lot of preliminaries have been done to ensure that when the trial starts, it is continuous until we conclude. You are not going to bring in new stuff after the trial started. A lot of other guidance has been given. So that is going to help. I'm very optimistic. I'm hopeful that it can work, and it will help us also as law enforcement. It's very stressful. When you people keep pushing us, what is happening about this case? It's very stressful. So like one did say, go to court, today's judgment. Go and hear for yourself. It's so, you feel relieved. Whether it's an acquittal, whether it's a conviction, you feel relieved. At least we have concluded.
Among the issues that the rest of the world is talking about is how complex financial crimes are. Issues to do with money seem to be really complex even for the first world. But you're talking about a country like Zambia, which is only getting digital with its financial system in the recent past. Would you say this is one of the reasons why there is a lot of these cases, a lot of these issues relating to money laundering and a lot of these financial crimes because of how complex these crimes can get?
I totally agree with you. Financial crimes are very, very complicated. Let me mention that, you see, when you are carrying out these investigations, you go in for a win. So the world now has really become a global village, like I said. We have institutions that cross borders. For example, there's a SAMLAC. It crosses borders. So when we're talking about money laundering, we will not go for it like a country on our own. We have FIC, for example. We have all these other groups, Egmont groups. And, it's such a coordinated effort where you can't have our weaknesses being an excuse for us to fail to perform. By the way, we are rated under FATF. We are rated. We have recommendations that we're supposed to follow. So if we do not work to a certain level, we can find ourselves being grey listed as a country, meaning we'll be looked at as a country that is vulnerable to money laundering. And all these good things that are happening will go under. So to answer your question directly, this is not a fight that is localized. It's globalized. Some of the investigations you've had right now, which we are pursuing, I can assure you that we have crossed boundaries, and documents are coming in. Those give us what they have. Institutions are giving us that. It's a globalized kind of thing. Others will fly in to come and give us information about that. Our officers will fly out to go and sort out this and that until we have everything put together. So we are working as one hell of a global village, and that is helping us a lot.
Let me ride on one of the things you said. You've been in this institution for over 30 years. You've worked in such an institution. And that simply means that your work has transcended different regimes of political leadership in the country, different presidents, different ministers, different leaders, basically. And one of the observations that generally has been there from the population, and just when you look at the trends, has been that a lot of political leaders get investigated by law enforcement agencies, including the Drug Enforcement Commission, when they are no longer political leaders, when they are out of their powerful offices. What makes it difficult to investigate people when they are serving in those positions of power that provide them even more power to commit more crimes?
Maybe just a little, I don't know if I can create a correction. I was going to say, what makes you think we're not investigating current leadership? But I won't ask you that question now because they're going to tell me, it's me to interview you, DG. So I won't ask you. We are investigating everybody. Now, what we do is we don't do running commentaries when we're carrying out an investigation, especially on a person, because you can't destroy somebody's character before you are set. When it comes out there, it means we're done. We get a lot of information digging down, a lot of information. I've worked right through from Kaunda, KK, and I'm so happy this is April 28th, is his birthday. I've worked from Kaunda right through to the present president. I grew up in the systems. Now I'm heading an institution under the current president, HH. I'll tell you one thing. That was not your question, but I'll tell you one thing. It's very, very important to have the correct political will when we're carrying out this job. And I'm saying this very, very confidently, that the will by this president, who is our boss, he appointed me, I report to him. The will by this president to see that criminality is curbed at all costs is very, very evident and clear. Remember, I grew up chasing criminals. I can see it. His desire, zero interference. There are sometimes insinuations that maybe he has said, never investigate Minister X, never investigate PSY, never investigate General Y, or whatever, or the big guy's director, what. No. That never comes from this president that we have.
So it is possible that this can happen, and so people's concerns can be justified in that context, isn't it? That it is possible for political leaders to actually interfere with such law enforcement agencies.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We've seen it in many countries. I think, without being specific, we've seen it also in Zambia in the past. But I'm saying now, I'm in a position where I'm handling a department like this one. And I'm not saying it. No interference. So we are ready to work. If you want to test me, if you have some information about a particular person, bring it. We'll give an update on it. Now we're at this stage. We have checked his accounts. We have profiled him. Now we're doing this. We'll do that. Because you see, political credibility, in my view, is very, very important for the development, even economically. If politically we are moribund, we are not doing, when we are appearing like people that don't respect the rule of law and so on, then everything else, including the economy, will collapse. Because we need the people out there to help us carry out these tasks that we want to do here. And if they look at us as people that are not organized, people that don't understand what they are doing, then everything will collapse. So I can assure you that right now, speaking for myself, I'm working independently. I can assure you of that.
Do you think that there's any Director General of the Drug Enforcement Commission in the future or in history who would actually admit that they are not working independently?
Well, a very tricky question. In the future.
Or in the past. Because this is the appointing authority, yes, in this case, and yes, you, to an extent, owe them allegiance.
Well, I understand your point, but I think you as a citizen, especially for those that are a little bit older, that have seen different regimes coming and going, might have vivid examples of situations where there was political interference. Very vivid. They'll have them. I have them too. I've seen it. I've been in these corridors. I've seen it. But I'm saying at this particular time, of course, one will say, well, he appointed you. We expect you to say he's a bad guy on TV. But you see, sometimes sincerity is good. If you don't have anything to say about something, just keep quiet. But for me to mention it, it means this is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
In the interest of the future, do you think that it should ever be left to the integrity of an individual, that if this is an upright president, this is an upright leader, then we trust that they will not interfere? And if it is one that lacks integrity, then they will interfere. Should it be left to the integrity of an individual, or we should have solid systems that make it impossible for such to happen?
I agree with you. Systems are the best. Any movement, any administration will require systems. When systems are strong, the institutions will be strong too. And when the institutions are strong, the delivery will be perfect. So systems are good. So that's why I think we're having a lot of legislative developments, even in Zambia right now. A lot of bills are coming up. I think we're realizing some gaps. How do we handle this? How do we handle that? So we're realizing some gaps. So systems are very, very important. When they are put in place, then the institutions that depend on those systems will also operate well. I totally agree with you.
Let me move towards the general population of the country and how they are carried along with how critical institutions like the Drug Enforcement Commission are, but also their responsibility as members of society who can help to preserve the integrity of the country, to preserve their public resources. Do you think that Zambians are being carried along enough, to contribute positively to your fight as a Drug Enforcement Commission?
I think in a way, yes, except that it's just to an extent. Because like I said, we have limiting factors. Some people just simply don't know. They don't know that there's a DEC, for example. I'm just from a tour, I've been touring around. They don't know what our mandate is. They look at us like others just believe we're just monsters that are out to just confuse them. Others will grow their cannabis thinking, what is wrong with this? So definitely there are people that are not carried along because they don't know. And that is why we have a task. So if I had my statistics, I would have shown you that our target might be at such level of information, but we're just at a certain level. We're not able to reach some areas. But right now, well, we're being strengthened. I just received a fleet of land cruisers, which I've distributed to all the provinces. So I'm hoping that with this kind of facilities coming in, we can reach out to as many as possible. So I agree with you. We are not carrying everybody along the way we would wish to.
The reason why I ask this question is because when it comes to institutions like Drug Enforcement Commission, Anti-Corruption Commission, and alike, the biggest interest from members of the public is usually their leaders or people of public interest or anything of that nature. People don't see themselves as part of the problem, that people can bribe an officer because they don't want to pay a traffic fine or any of those things, and they don't see it as a problem. It only becomes a problem when it's a political leader who is suspected of having committed a crime. And that's why I asked the question. You think that people also see themselves as part of the problem?
Okay, I get your point. I'll give you a bit of nyanja here, chewa. We say, mutu kulu sule wankonya. When the head is big, if somebody wants to hit you, even with his eyes closed, just will hit you. Okay? Now, why am I saying this? When you are a leader, you are subject to a certain amount of scrutiny, which unfortunately is unavoidable. Everybody sees you. The day you wear shorts, everybody says, today is wearing shorts. The day you wear slippers, today is wearing slippers because of your position. So when you are a leader, definitely you expect scrutiny to be at a very, very high level. Very, very high level. Now, those so-called ordinary people, that are just walking the street there, leading their lives, comes and mends shoes there, the other one sells his ice cream there, the other one sells his charcoal there. Even if you arrest 10 of them with five tons of cannabis, people will not be interested in the person you have arrested. They're interested in the tons. 5 tons, that's a lot, because that name means nothing. But let Dinginda be found with one gram of cocaine. It will even be in Washington. It will be in China. Why? Because of your name. That's why I look at it. I don't know what to think, but that's why I look at it.
I will conclude this interview with a subject that I have been closely following, and we talked a little bit about it, but I would like us to conclude on this note, and it's the increase in the, let me not say increase, but the huge volumes of drugs that young people are abusing in the country, a problem that seems to be getting bigger by the day in a lot of these communities. I've covered a lot of these communities where there's young people abusing drugs. What do you think are the interventions that need to be put in place now? And what are some of the things that the Drug Enforcement Commission is doing to ensure that we avert the possibility of this problem getting out of hand, if it hasn't yet?
Thank you very much. Like I mentioned in my opening remarks, we of course endeavor to control the supply of the drugs by interdicting the crime, hitting it at the source. We will also endeavor to hit the perpetrators of the crime by hitting their pockets, which is money laundering. But most importantly, we target the potential and those that are already victims of the drug scourge by educating them about the dangers, equipping them with the knowledge. You say knowledge is power. Then there are those that might have not yet gotten involved. Let's give them information that will prevent them, stop them from getting involved, because they will understand. They will know that when you take this, it is going to do this to you. Now, we also look particularly at those that have already been hit through counseling programs. We counsel families, we counsel young persons that are conclusively, one might say that we need now to look at how we look at the recovery of a person who is on drugs. So you recall the president last year, I think, announced that we are going to have a rehabilitation center, and it's on the way. A rehabilitation center is on the way. This is a holistic kind of one-stop station where you enter as a drug addict, you come out as a recovered person. Right now, even in the DC, I have clinical officers, I have counselors, I have all these medical people working here in the DC, but we don't have a facility yet. We don't have a facility yet. So once that facility, we have land already identified, surveyed, biddings have already been done by the relevant ministries in Bamora area in Chilanga district. All those things have been done. So we're just waiting for the right time when government will have some bit of money. I'm sure HE himself will be very glad to come and lay the foundation stone, because he's very passionate about the problem of junkies especially. He feels we should not allow our country to be overtaken by our own children that are coming from our own homes. They should now stop us from going to the market to buy bread. Our own children. We shouldn't allow that. So basically, the rehabilitation center will be the culmination of our intervention efforts. Culmination of our intervention. So eventually we should have a situation where these rehab centers are replicated at smaller scale in the other districts where we identify the problem. Then we should be able to deal with the victim and the perpetrator.
Thank you so much, DG, for featuring on my show.
Thank you.